Life behind bars can be stressful, taxing, wearing. We know that. We also know that many people who are incarcerated are struggling with mental health issues. It may be related to alcohol and drug addiction. It may be a separate diagnosis. And sometimes people have dual diagnoses in places of incarceration. We know that between 70 and 75% of the people who are incarcerated have some involvement with drugs and alcohol abuse. And when they leave places of incarceration, we know that they're going to have to deal with those issues as well. Sometimes they have been able to deal with those issues productively when they're behind bars, but we know that those issues don't leave you once you leave prison. So we're going to ask Mark Johnson a few questions about what his recommendations might be for folks who are struggling with mental health issues. What advice would you give somebody who is coming out of jail or prison and they've been struggling with alcohol or drug addiction, or they've been struggling with mental illness? Where do they go for help? What would you suggest?
Well, there's two places or several places actually that come to mind, but the first two right away is if you're in the Louisville area, I would look for community mental health agencies such as Centerstone, or if you're in Lexington, Bluegrass Mental Health, which is out on Newtown Pike in Lexington, and they have offices around the county and so forth. So those are the first two places that I would look. And then if you're really struggling when you first come out, because I know how people can be so anxious, because once you come from a period of incarceration and you're thrust out into the community, it's very anxiety provoking. And so if you have feelings of despair or suicide or issues with things like that, there's another agency that I strongly recommend, and it's called NAMI, N-A-M-I, which is National Alliance for Mental Illness. And they have chapters in Louisville, Lexington, all over the country, and so forth. So you can go to our website and find links and phone numbers for places like that. So I would strongly suggest those places first.
We also know that a lot of folks who are coming out of places of incarceration are in recovery, and that's a good place to be, and sometimes it's a hard place to be. What are some of the things that you recommend for people who are in recovery? I know that there are many groups in the community that address these particular issues, but Mark, what have you found to be the most effective for people who are dealing with their recovery? They're trying to stay sober, they want to move into a different place in their lives.
A lot of our clients, when they first come out, they are released from, in the Kentucky Department of Corrections, they're released from a SAP program, substance abuse program, or if they're in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, they may be coming from a RDAP, Residential Drug Abuse Program. And part of their aftercare is that they must participate in recovery programs. So that's a critical piece, is that they get connected with those right away. So some of the suggestions that I have are churches of any size in any community have all kinds of recovery programs, such as AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery programs. If you're a person of faith, Celebrate Recovery program is really a good place to start.
One of the ways that people can maintain their sobriety is really to try to find new ways of living out their lives, ways in which they deal with stress in positive, healthy, holistic ways. Mark, what are some of the things that you would recommend that people begin undertaking as they move into the community? They've got a job, they've got good housing, but they've got a lot of free time. What are some of the positive ways that they can fill that free time and maintain their sobriety?
Well, one of the first things that I suggest and I use for myself is an exercise program. Exercise programs are very beneficial for everybody, especially for people that are suffering from any kind of substance abuse or mental illness or any kind of physical issues. Exercise program is really good. And then, when people are coming out of prison, not necessarily local jails, but more prison and so forth, if they're on medication while they're incarcerated, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they will be released with a small supply of medication. In Bureau of Prisons, it's supposed to be 30-day supply. And State Department of Corrections, maybe 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever. But oftentimes people either lose the medication or the Corrections Department doesn't issue it or whatever, and they don't get their medication. But if you have medication, be sure and stay on your medication. And then we suggest volunteering. Volunteering is a valuable thing. In our mentor programs, that's some of the goals that we recommend, is volunteering for things like Habitat for Humanity or other programs, food pantries, programs like that, and community service. It's very good. Using your leisure time effectively and constructively is one of the things that really will help you stay out of trouble and navigate potential dangerous waters. And another thing that we recommend is meditation. Meditation or prayer. If you're a prayerful person, contemplative prayer, quiet time, study, reading, just a meditative kind of prayer situation is really good.
And we know the value of connecting with healthy support groups. Mm-hmm. That may be a church, it may be a community organization, it may be a group that does something that you like to do yourself. It might be fishing, it might be playing golf, it might be some recreational activity, but finding a healthy outlet. And when you do that, you find people who are also healthy and are moving in positive directions, and they can have great influence on you. The other aspect that we want to emphasize is that mental illness, being in recovery, there's nothing to be ashamed of with respect to that. We know that those things affect virtually everyone in our society and transcend all demographics. But what's most important is that you address it, you find the help that you need, and you move to a better place, a healthier place, a more holistic place. That's what we want for you. That's what your community wants for you when you return to each of the places in which you will be living and living positively and in a healthy way.